Reflect on the recently released crime statistics, communities with the highest numbers have to face the daily reality of violence in their areas. Western Cape's Mitchell's Plain is rated third among the most crime-ridden areas in the country, with Cape Town Central on top of the list. A month ago, the City of Cape Town allocated 65 million rand for additional officers and resources in an effort to combat crime and gangsterism in that township. To discuss the current situation in Mitchell's Plain, from our Sea Point studios, we are joined by Janice Erasmus, the director of Jireh Community Projects in Mitchell's Plain. Janice, thanks very much for joining us and welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you so much, Leanne, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
The numbers have gone down significantly. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, by a total of 11%. But as someone who knows the area extensively, how would you still describe the crime rate in Mitchell's Plain?
Well, Leanne, it's a debated topic, but crime is prevalent in Mitchell's Plain. Regardless of how it's put with statistics, when you speak about life, even if you look at the murder rate, one life to me is one life too much. And I'm sure Mitchell's Plain will back me when I say the fact of the matter is our kids, our families, everyone is at the heart of, in Mitchell's Plain is at the heart of where crime is. Crime is every day, it's around you, it's constant, you see it, you've got to worry. Mornings is difficult. I'm sure there's parents worrying about their children walking to school, walking home. The fact of the matter remains that crime is prevalent, regardless of what the stats do show. Yeah. There's so much that needs to be done in the Mitchell's Plain community, and Mitchell's Plain it's rated as one of the most dangerous places, but it's a beautiful community. It's rich in the amount of people that are there and the people that support each other. But crime is prevalent, it's happening, it's affecting us negatively, and something needs to be done about it.
Indeed. Let's get a personal perspective from you. You were born and bred in Mitchell's Plain. You've been part of the community. You have friends.
Correct.
Everything about you is Mitchell's Plain. What goes wrong? Where does it all start? So let's perhaps focus on that.
Okay. So in Mitchell's Plain, look, it's high population density. We overpopulated. There's a lot of people. I mean, we just over 300,000 people in the community. I know for myself, I was born in Mitchell's Plain, and 25 years ago, my parents decided to ship us out to Mitchell's Plain, and we moved to Muizenberg. At that time, my parents felt there was a calling on their life, so they actually sold our property in Portlands in Mitchell's Plain to purchase the land on which our organization runs from today. And so Mitchell's Plain, as much as we've moved out, we're there daily. It's what we do. So it will always be a part of us. But over the years, I mean, 25 years ago, Mitchell's Plain wasn't as bad as it is today. I remember walking to school safely. I remember neighbors taking care of kids. I remember just being able to go next door and sit around other children and families and be safe in my community. But now the case is different. I mean, we've got the fact that drugs that the drug rate is so high. People are addicted to drugs, and the spin-offs of that is the crime rate, is the fact that people are unemployed, they're looking for ways out, they're turning to the wrong things. Children as young as 9 at school are getting addicted to these substances. Parents are being held ransom. It's tough, and things have changed. But you know what? The community organization that I work from, it's an open door place where we have an ECD facility, and what we felt was, even when my father founded the place, was the fact that community needed to be developed. There needed to be youth development. There needed to be programs in place for people. There needed to be job creation programs. There needed to be learnerships. Things needed to happen so that people had things to do, things to turn to, and ways of making a means for themselves with such a high level of unemployment.
And that's the reality. And then one of the issues we haven't spoken about, and I think we need to really turn our attention to, is the issue of gangsterism. It's rife. It's destroying the community, it's destroying lives. You touched on drugs, but they go hand in hand. How bad is the situation with gangsterism within Mitchell's Plain?
It's bad because children are now being recruited, and they're young, and like I said before, they're looking for ways out and for things to do. But gangsterism is, I mean, you'd have a quiet week, and you know the streets, they're quiet, but you're always in fear of what's brewing and what's coming next, because then you'll have a couple of weeks where things will just be bad. Children can't play outside because of stray bullets. Gangs are using children. They're using people now. I mean, at schools, they're using caretakers. They're using teachers. They're channeling their energy now through people that are supposed to be helping children and be supporting and be the supportive structures for kids. Gangsterism is rife in Mitchell's Plain. Yeah. It's bad, but I don't know what we're going to do to get rid of it.
My question to you is, and I actually had the National Police Commissioner seated here in studio with us this week, and I posed a question to him, and this was very much so along the lines of these crime stats that have come out and how communities speak to policing. Obviously, there are police in Mitchell's Plain, but are they doing their jobs? I've spoken to people from Mitchell's Plain that say, you know, what happens is that they turn their backs on the crime that's happening. They may get paid off by the gangsters. They may be working with the gangsters, and they're not doing their job properly. Now, this is from stories that I've heard. You work in the community. What is your experience of the work that police are doing inside Mitchell's Plain? Is it good enough?
Look, I mean, you get good cops and you get bad cops, but at the end of the day, I don't think in an area like Mitchell's Plain, it's ever going to be good enough because of the situation we find ourselves in. I think we need to backtrack a bit and to see what started everything, but at the same time, the police presence, as much as it's strong in certain areas, there's certain areas where it is needed. And I know that sometimes police don't want to go into areas because of what's happening or because of the shootouts. But we need to also understand why police is doing so. And they need to be present in all areas. They need to be visible. I think the problem is most of the time is the fact that when things happen, it's finding the police. It's getting them out there. It's the fact that they're not visible in the area as much as being based at the stations. They need to be out all the time. The satellite officers need to multiply. They need to be on the fields, in the area. So yeah, that's my take.
If you had a wish for Mitchell's Plain, and particularly with the work that your organisation does, because I know that you also work on early development, early childhood development. What is your wish for the community? What do you think needs to be done? Is that where it should all begin? With early childhood development and getting involved from when the community are very, very young and impressionable?
Yeah, 0 to 9 is the formative years. I mean, it's the most important part of a child's life because they learn so many values. They develop character. They learn right and wrong. And yes, it's so important. I mean, I can't take credit for everything we do. We've got 196 children in the building and 22 amazing women that work with them daily from the Mitchell's Plain community. But at the end of the day, those are the formative years, but you cannot work with a child on their own. A child belongs to a unit which is a family, and families need support. Parents need support, especially young families. They need so much support. There needs to be interventions in place. We need parenting programs. They need to be uplifted. They need to know there are people that they can turn to and programs in place if they struggle with kids. I think that's very important. A child cannot be seen on their own. They come with various attachments. We need to know who the child lives with, who's in the home, what happens at home. Unfortunately, there are bad experiences. I know in the last 10 years of working in Mitchell's Plain, I've had 4 children where their moms were killed by the fathers. And at the end of the day, I think during those moments, you really start realizing and thinking, what has that child been through? What has that child seen? What has that child endured, especially in 2 of the cases where the mothers were actually killed in front of the children. At the end of the day, these are children that are surviving, but also experiencing hurt and anguish that some of us adults or our children will never see or experience. So we need to create support in our communities. I think it's very vital from beginning.
We thank you for the work you're doing. Thanks for your time. And we'll be in touch with you just to get some updates and see how things go with some of these interventions that are planned in the area. This, of course, was Janice Erasmus, Director of Jireh Community Projects, working in Mitchell's Plain. Let's take a break. We've got more after this.